everyone. Welcome to Credential Up Houston. My name is Margaret Ford Fisher. I am president of the HCC Online College. On this program, we will discuss the transformational power of education and how the Association of College and University Educators is equipping faculty with evidence-based teaching practices. They focus on a number of initiatives that improve student engagement, increased persistence, and that also close equity gaps. Let's watch this short video.
If I had one word to describe ACUE, I would say empowering.
Transformational.
Affirming.
Productive.
Enlightening.
Interdisciplinary.
I would say it's life-changing as an instructor.
It is empowering, it is encouraging, invigorating, re-energizing. It helps faculty find that passion again that may sometimes need to be resurfaced.
It was transformational because it really opened my eyes to how fun teaching can be, but also like how creative it can be.
ACUE really kind of enlightened me to what current modern day student needs are. That has been a game changer for me.
As a vice provost, I would also say that the ACUE experience on our campus has been transformative institutionally.
It builds a faculty learning community. It builds some camaraderie.
And it's also affirming that we know that the faculty at our university have students' best interests in mind.
ACUE allows faculty to produce better results in their classrooms.
ACUE is learning, and the more we know about learning, the more we can impart that knowledge to our own students. I see this transformation of confidence, and gosh, empowered instructors are effective instructors, and then you get empowered students that are going to succeed even more.
Joining us to provide more information and to discuss how the Association of College and University Educators, the acronym ACUE, is helping institutions and faculty to improve student outcomes and close the equity gaps is Dr. Penny McCormick, Chief Academic Officer. Dr. McCormick, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Oh, you are just so welcome. We are so pleased. And so all of the very positive comments about ACUE on the video, it's very, very exciting. And of course, with the pandemic really causing more instructors to change their practices, this is really very important now, the work that you're doing. So tell us more about ACUE's mission, please.
Sure. So our mission is to partner with institutions, university, colleges, and systems to help them realize their student success and equity goals through quality instruction. So through the improvement of instruction across their campuses.
That's very impressive. And of course, there was an article in the Chronicle of Higher Education in October of 2021 and written by Beth McMurtry. And it speaks to the damaging myth of the natural teacher. Tell us just about that myth, please.
I can't tell you how excited I am that you brought that up. Because when I saw that article, it really spoke volumes to me. I think that myth of the natural born teacher actually damages both instructors and students. It's damaging to both. And the reason for that is that when you believe the myth, and the myth is that you either have the personality to be a teacher or you don't. That's the myth. Well, if you believe that myth, you miss some really key facts. And those facts are, we have over 40 years of research in how people learn and the practices that really help to improve engagement and improve learning. We know what they are. So that's one fact that gets missed. The other, equally important, they can be taught. You're not born with them, but they can be taught. And last but not least is we have proven here at ACUE, and others have proven it too, that when faculty utilize evidence-based teaching practices, student outcomes improve. Student engagement improves, student learning improves, student persistence improves, students' mindsets improve. They start to believe in themselves as learners. So it's really of utmost importance that folks understand that you're not born a teacher or not. You actually can be trained to teach well, and that training results in improved outcomes for students.
That is so critically important for the instructor in the classroom who thinks, well, I really don't engage with students the way others do. And I feel that perhaps I'm not a natural fit for this, although they have all of the other competencies. So this provides the hope for the instructors as well, that they can improve their practices. So that's really important in my estimation.
Yeah, it's important to recognize that instructors in higher ed are experts in their discipline. They have expertise in their discipline, oftentimes experts in the research processes, but too few, in fact, most have little or no preparation to teach. And again, the issue there is, this belief that you either have it or you don't. Well, most instructors haven't been prepared to teach, but when they are, aha moments happen. They try these practices and they see students engaged in a different way. They see students asking better questions, being more excited about what they're learning. And that means so much to that instructor and the students, right? And so that's why it's so important that we make sure that instructors in higher education are prepared to teach.
Good. So what do you think technology's influence now is on teaching?
What technology is a tool, just like a pencil is, just like a computer is, it's a tool. And what this tool has allowed us to have available to us right now is to teach remotely, to teach online. And, what we've seen at ACUE is a lot of folks, especially during COVID, feeling a little uncomfortable. Can I create those kinds of connections that I can in a face-to-face environment? And the answer is yes, you can. But again, needing to learn about the practices that allow you to connect when you're in an online environment is really key, as it is in a face-to-face environment. In both cases, there are practices for really engaging students and helping them be active learners more than passive listeners. You need to be an active learner in order to learn skills and knowledge that you can transfer to new contexts. And I'm always thinking that that's our major role as college educators, right? Is to prepare students to learn for a lifetime, to be able to know that, I'm not done when I graduate from college, but rather I've learned how to be a good learner and I'm prepared to learn for a lifetime of changes and different careers that I might choose, et cetera.
That active learner is very important for the active teacher as well, that teacher is self-assured, is confident, knowing that he has or she has all of the strategies available to him or her to be an effective teacher. So in about 30 seconds, how should teaching strategies differ in face-to-face teaching as opposed to virtual teaching?
So virtual is just a different format, right? So if in my face-to-face classroom, I decide I want to make sure that students feel welcomed, I want them to engage in the syllabus, engage in some learning. How I do that in a face-to-face environment might be when students come into the classroom, I'm shaking hands and I'm welcoming and asking names. I'm handing out a syllabus activity versus, we're going to just drill through the syllabus. I'm going to have you all do a scavenger hunt with the syllabus and find the important due dates, the important resources, et cetera. In an online environment, instead, I might get a welcome email or even a welcome video from my instructor before the course is even started. And so I'm already seeing that person as a real person, somebody who's excited about the course and interested in supporting us. When I click into the course for the first time, I might find directions to say, go to the discussion board and introduce yourself and look at the model that the instructor has given to introduce yourself. And you get to read introductions, maybe sometimes even videos from your peers. And so right away, you're feeling like you're in a learning community. And by the way, feeling like I'm alone in this is the number one complaint of online students.
That is absolutely right.
Yeah.
Dr. McCormick, we will take a break. And when we return, we will discuss research-based best practices. So please stay with us.
The faculty at HCC represents the best of the city. They're committed to getting our students to their goals. HCC, for everyone, anytime, anyway.
Welcome back to Credential Up Houston and our discussion with Dr. Penny McCormick, Chief Academic Officer with the Association of College and University Educators. Dr. McCormick, the information that you shared in the previous segment is just so exciting and it's so invigorating because it really provides a high level of confidence for instructors that they have all of what they need to be an effective instructor. So tell us about the framework that you use for evidence-based teaching practices.
Sure. So, when we started the work at ACUE, we knew that we wanted to offer faculty a really comprehensive course in evidence-based teaching practices. And so the first thing we did was to say, well, okay, what are the core set of knowledge and skills you need to be effective in the college classroom? And for us, we always reach out to the experts across the country, in this case, experts in teaching and learning, to very iterative process, a lot of reading went on to indeed identify that core set of knowledge and skills. And so our framework has 5 competencies. Underneath each of those competencies are individual module titles. But essentially what it addresses is that core set of knowledge and skills you need to be effective in the college level classroom on which professors can build over time. So it's not everything under the sun, but it's a good solid foundation.
And I see as well that you are endorsed, and that is ACUE.
Yeah.
You're endorsed by ACE, which is really the American Council on Education, very well known, very well respected. So tell us about those endorsements, please, by ACE.
Sure. I'll be able to tell a little story of how I was feeling. So when we created that framework, like I said, we reached out to experts. But when we reached out to ACE to endorse the work as well as our courses, they said, well, who are the experts that you talked to? And I gave them that list. And so they made sure they brought a whole group of experts that we had not talked to look at the framework and to really determine whether or not they felt, yes, indeed, this addresses the core set of knowledge and skills. And so when we got that endorsement, we were as a team so excited to know that indeed another group of experts in teaching and learning had said, yep, this is indeed the list that's comprehensive and will allow faculty to learn that core set of knowledge and skills, again, on which they could build.
So, that's very, very impressive, in fact. And so does inclusive teaching coincide with that framework, perchance, that you make reference to?
It does indeed. So what some folks don't realize is, if I look at the inclusive teaching literature and I look at the evidence-based teaching literature, I'm going to see a great deal of overlap. And what we've seen with our courses is when faculty engage in our course, we see not only student outcomes improving, retention rates, course completion rates, we see equity gaps narrowing and closing because indeed those evidence-based practices are also inclusive practices.
So with those practices, are there teaching practices, for example, that every educator knows about and knows how to use effectively?
Not without being prepared to know those. So just like I wasn't born knowing the Krebs cycle in biology or knowing even basic things like, how does one care for your newborn? I learned about it. That's what has to happen for faculty. Some evidence-based practices, in some cases, I think faculty are using practices that when they take our course, they're like, oh, wow, that's so good to know. I was doing this, and now I know that it's evidence-based, that there's research behind it. And that helps build something you mentioned several times, which is faculty confidence, which is key. We measure faculty confidence at the end of our courses. We're asking, how confident were you to do active learning in your classroom before the course and after? The growth is enormous across the board.
Very, very good. So with the resilient faculty that you help to shape, So what are some of those characteristics and the mindset of the resilient faculty that you were referencing just a moment ago?
So one of the pieces of that mindset that's really important to us is the idea of a growth mindset. A growth mindset means that I understand that I actually can get more intelligent. It's not I was born intelligent or not, but the way I can get more intelligent is by practicing and trying different strategies. What's always been interesting to me is we know that about hitting baseballs and playing guitars. We're like, oh yeah, if I want to get better, I need to practice. And sometimes I might need to try a different strategy, right? Well, it's the same in mathematics and physics and psychology and philosophy. Practice and different strategies allows you to be successful. So helping faculty gain that mindset, and they in turn helping students gain that mindset, I think the potentials unleashed are unimaginable.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. So give us an example of how that might play out in a classroom. How would we then see that in action?
Well, I think with a growth mindset, if a student believes that it's a matter of my effort and persistence, they are going to be more likely to ask questions. They're going to be more likely to seek help, and they're going to be more likely to persist in meeting both academic and personal challenges. Because, when we're attempting to earn a college degree, many of our students these days have a lot going on in their lives. And if they feel like they belong and they understand that, it's effort and persistence that are going to help me earn this, they're just more likely to put forth that effort.
Of course, you're right there as well. And so do you have surveys also to capture the feedback from students at all?
We do. We ask faculty a number of questions to get at their mindset and such. And we have student surveys. And what we ask students are about the strategies. Are they engaging in the strategies that we know lead to student success? So we're asking them whether or not they were clear about what they were learning, clear about how they would be assessed, clear about the activities they were doing and how those were connected, right, to the assessments that they're going to need to take to demonstrate their learning. So those sort of things really help a student be more motivated to persist.
Of course. So with the students' engagement, that is really very important. So are you seeing the same types of results of students having that engagement and that growth mindset also in both the face-to-face as well as the online environment?
So we are seeing that. Many, believe it or not, of our initial course takers taught both online and face-to-face. So our data sets really do represent both seeing improved student engagement, student learning, student outcomes, regardless of the format in which they were engaged or learning.
Excellent. Well, we will take another break. Okay. And when we return, we will discuss a review of additional outcomes to include achievement as well as equity gap outcomes. So please stay with us.
Being prepared is a part of who you are, but it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
I love teaching at HCC.
I love helping students.
With college credits.
With scholarships and financial aid.
Training them for life-changing careers.
Come learn with us. HCC, for everyone, anytime, anyway.
Welcome back to Credential Up Houston. We are continuing our discussion with Dr. Penny McCormick, Chief Academic Officer with the Association of College and University Educators, ACUE. So Dr. McCormick, tell us about the outcomes that you have identified also to close the equity gaps.
Sure. So, I think one of the things to kind of point out with our courses is that we actually require implementation. So oftentimes, and for myself too, right? We learn teaching practices at workshops and we're excited and we come home and we think we're going to get right to it, and then life takes over, right? So what we knew we needed to do with our courses was to create a learning design that not only engaged faculty, but inspired them to try the practices. And so implementation of the practices, each module, they've got quite a number of choices. But at the end of the day, we ask that they choose one practice that would fit in their current context, try it out with the students, and then reflect on that experience. That need to try out and reflect really is what has resulted in the impact that we've been able to show. So when faculty implement the practices, what we've seen through our student surveys and surveys from institutions, we can use their survey too, is increased engagement. What we've also seen, as I pointed out, right, are increased course completion rates. Interestingly enough, at one of our key partners, University of Southern Mississippi, what we've seen is increased completion rates of introductory courses. We know those gateway courses sometimes can be most challenging. So what we saw was an increased retention rate of 3.7%. We also saw a decrease in Ds, Fs, and withdrawals. We saw a greater increase in Ds, Fs, and withdrawals for students that were Black, which started to narrow and close that equity gap. We've also seen course completion rates we've actually closed the gap between Pell eligible and non-Pell eligible students with one of our partnership at Broward College. And we cut in half that course completion rate gap between white and Black students. And so we've seen quite a number of both equity gap closing and student outcome increases that, if I look at the literature, if I look out there on what's on the mind of higher ed leaders, it really is retention, graduation, persistence. And so what we've been able to show is that improved teaching and learning, improved teaching practices results exactly in what our leaders out there are trying to improve: retention, graduation, and close and narrow those equity gaps.
And this is certainly the kind of data that most institutions, and I venture to say practically all institutions, are looking to have to show the evidence that what is being conducted within their institutions is really successful in the achievement, in the persistence, in the retention, and in the closing of the equity gaps as well. So I have several questions I'd like to follow up with you on with respect to that. And I'm wondering, because this is so effective, is this also available to public schools?
Great question. So we have started to have conversations with some K-12 schools and school districts, including those in Texas, about indeed, engaging, especially like high school faculty, people who teach dual enrollment courses. These strategies will be just as effective for them as they are for our college level faculty.
Excellent. So tell us about your certificates. I know you offer certificates as well, and that's one of the things that a lot of faculty and administrators as well would like to have to walk away with after completing a course. So tell us about the certificates that you offer for the faculty who complete the training.
So when faculty complete our course, they earn a credential in effective college teaching, and it is the only nationally recognized credential because it is endorsed by, as you pointed out earlier, the American Council on Education. So faculty earn that credential. On the way, faculty can engage in our courses in a few ways. And we wanted to be flexible with this. They could engage in all 25 modules at once. Just to note, faculty engage in our courses in a cohort. Reason being that when we were designing our modules, we asked faculty, what would you need in order to be inspired to implement? Didn't matter who I was talking to or where. They said, we want to see the practices being used in authentic settings. We want to hear from the faculty using them, from their students. This is higher ed. We want to hear from those researchers. And we want opportunities to work with our colleagues and learn together. And so we've made sure that all of those components are included in our modules. So faculty are indeed inspired to implement and to try out those practices.
So, a number of institutions, many do not have the teaching centers. And certainly this is something where a lot of that growth work can occur. So I presume that based upon what I'm hearing is that you would recommend teaching centers for institutions to provide that kind of activity and the all of the materials that would be available to support the faculty members in their ability to grow and to develop that growth mindset to achieve the goals that you have.
We love to work with teaching centers. Now, if there isn't a teaching center, we can work with institutions who don't have teaching centers, but we enjoy working with the teaching center. And what we're doing with the teaching center is, because our courses are online and able to be taken asynchronously, we wanted to make sure that you could scale this offering across a campus and be able to engage adjunct faculty who sometimes aren't able to be at a particular place at a particular time. So really what we're allowing for is for a teaching center, sometimes just a few folks, to engage an entire campus of faculty. Our courses allow for that. Oftentimes folks from the teaching center are the facilitators of our courses, and we support them in facilitating. So one of the things I love about our work is we are not a company that partners with you and says, oh, here you go, you've purchased this course, we hope it goes well. Instead, we truly partner. And so we assist with the implementation of the course. We check in with the facilitators to make sure they know what data they can use to see how the course takers are progressing. And then we study the efficacy of our work. Both, is it engaging to faculty? Are they learning and are they implementing? As well as, are we seeing changes in student engagement and those student level outcomes?
That creates the platform for a very effective partnership, in fact. Yeah. So for our viewers who are watching, please share your contact information, because I'm sure many of them will want to follow up with you.
Sure, it's www.acue.org. Nice and simple.
Nice and simple, very, very good. And so what recommendations do you now share as we bring closure to the program today?
I really think our instructors and students across our country deserve to be engaged with evidence-based teaching practices. We know that that will result in improved student engagement and learning. And I'm hearing out there a lot of questions about what students are learning in college, how valuable it is. Well, this is key. It's key that we do something we haven't done before, which is to prepare all of our instructors. They are experts in their discipline, prepare them to teach. And we're going to see our country and our institutions in higher ed meet the goals that we have out there, that we see around retention, persistence, graduation, and maybe most importantly, the closing and eliminating of those equity gaps.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us, Dr. McCormick, and for the leading edge work that you do. And thanks to our viewers for watching. This has been Credential Up Houston. We will see you again next time.